Nash is also from Quebec. This is our first ever NJIT robot in 3 days. We missed doing it on high school, so we decided we should continue it here. So this is our first ever recap, and basically we're gonna go over what our thought process was for this entire game, and answer your questions. So first, while we saw the kickoff stream, we realized that the the algae really doesn't matter per se, because if you make a robot focus more on the coral, you can have faster cycle times than a ball. Because you get 4 points for shooting this up, while you can get 4 points for it going to a L3, which we believe is much easier.
And even if you just push into the processor, you only get a net point of 2 points because it is very easy to just shoot the ball and make it as a human player. So we decided that it's not really that worth it to go for the ball. That and the fact that there's so few of these and there's a limited number, it's a lot better for us just to go straight for the coral and try to go be consistent on those.
So what we then decided to go on is the actual mechanism of how we're gonna move our pieces around. So currently we're testing what is it called, Nisha? A vertic. It's the virtual reverse double four. It's
Virtual double reverse 4-bar.
virtual double reverse 4-bar. It's a lot of words, but one of our members taught us about it, and we think that might be a really good fit for this year's game. So that's going to be an interesting thing to test. That's what he's CADing right now. And in the meantime, we have Chris who's prototyping different parts.
So right now, the current idea is have some sort of channel where you have a ramp on either side that the core is going to roll into, and then be able to lift that using the reverse 4-bar linkage, and tip that into each of the spots on the reef. We do not have a plan for the ball as of right now. We're probably just going to have
Alright.
the current idea for the ball is we're going to have a compression wheel to hold the coral in place as we're raising our robot. But before that all happens, we're going to try and run the reverse compression wheel in reverse in order to try to flick the algae off of the reef. We've yet to test that as we're still building the reef itself. We're waiting on a jig to finish printing. It should be done in about 10 or 15 minutes or so. But we're going to then take our drills and start prototyping that. We're also probably going to start doing just a quick prototype of the
Thomas win.
That was Thomas, an alum from 41, just coming by to grab his safety glasses. Always stay safe, kids. But we're just going to run it in reverse to flick off all the algae. We're going to test that after the jig is made in 10 or 15 minutes or so, as I said. And then we're going to start prototyping our ramp for the coral.
And if you check the stream overlay right here, we're basically currently we're using a CNC mill that NJIT has, and we are making all the cutting all the plywood panels so we can actually test it better.
Yes, the hope is that in a couple minutes we're going to have all the pieces finally done so we can finally assemble a processor. And I think the source.
Yeah, the processor, the coral station, all of those stations. We're going to try to
There's a
finish that
couple
today.
big plywood pieces that just need to get machined on that. But afterwards we can just screw it all together and do the final assembly. We do already have a base, thankfully donated, but we are having some issues with our swerve.
drive.
There was a couple mishaps in terms of tolerance for the what's this part called? The steer. The steer. And the one of the cuts was made wrong on the wheel itself. So the plan is we're going to try and SLS reprint these overnight, and we're going to hopefully have everything assembled by tomorrow. We are going to have a minor shift. Wednesday there is
some
The
science
science-
Olympiad here in the makerspace.
in the space we're using right now. So we're gonna have to switch to a different space called Phase 2. The hope is we're gonna have most, if not all, the robot built by then, and mostly we're just gonna be fine tuning it.
Our goal by tomorrow night is to have a robot fully made, and Wednesday we're gonna be testing it.
More likely, it's gonna be Wednesday morning. To be honest, we're a little behind schedule. We're still testing out all of our electronics as they've just come in. We got a crew over there testing the talons.
Yeah, I mean that's basically our first recap. Our robot's gonna be mainly focused on the coral, and we will have a small thing just for the algae, which is gonna be compliant wheels that will put on our motor that'll spin the algae into the processor from the ground. Otherwise, for intakes, we're currently focusing not on ground intake. Ground intake is more of our wants. Our first need itself is to make a coral station pickup.
Trying to get it from the ground only requires the 3 pieces that start out on the field. Trying to do it from the source makes it a lot simpler than than trying to get to the ground. That means if we try to pick up any of them from the ground, we first have to knock off the algae and then go over the bumper in order to pick it up, which most likely would mean by knocking off the algae that the coral would be in bad orientation. We're trying to make this as simple as possible. So did we talk about the differential arm idea?
So yeah, that is one of our possible ideas, is to have a differential arm which will turn sideways and right side up to pick up pieces.
It's a lot more complicated, and it's meant so you can reorient the piece if it's sitting on the ground in a weird orientation or if it's upright. But in the nature of the time limit and the limited resources we have, we're going to try and keep it as simple as possible. It may come to the point where we have to pivot to that, but we're going to try to see if we can just do a ramp and commit to that for now. If you have any more questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. We may or may not address those till the very next.
So, yeah, one of the questions asked is, what style ball intake are you going for, and are you going to let it hit the floor and control it? So ball intake, as I was talking about, we're not going to focus on the ball. We're going to focus more on the corals. But for ball intake is what I was saying before. Probably on our arm, we'll add a small a compliant wheel. Just have that spin, and we're not going to have positive control of the ball. We're going to be pushing it around, at least for now, and then we're just going to roll it into the processor.
We may have to do some finagling in order to get the ball to go up into the processor. There is the little kick plate, so it won't just straight up roll. We might have to add some sort of wheel there to spin it up a little bit, just to give it a little bit more lift.
Yeah.
If the audio issue,
I think it should be
is
fixed,
picking
that's when I brought it closer.
so
So next question was, is picking stuff up the robot's main function? So yes. So we're going to be picking up with our differential arm. We're going to be primarily doing it from the human station, and our goal is to go mainly for the L2, L3 poles, with maybe L4 if our 4-bar linkage is able to reach that high. So the reason we
need to have another apparatus in order to control the ball actively. We are dealing with already a very small base. The bases that we were given are 24 by 24. We did order our own sheets of aluminum from Mel Supermarkets, but they have gotten delayed, so they wouldn't be here on time. So we are dealing with a very small base. So in light of that, we were trying to focus on only one and try and keep consistent on only one, and try not to crowd the drive base as much as possible to try and make maintenance something that is feasible.
So yeah, ideally what we might do is we do have some polycarb, so we might add it onto our arm per se, where it's like a small hook that just keeps it in guide per se.
I also had a thought about maybe having some little something little that like pokes out of over the bumper of the robot just to corral the ball left and right. But right now we're not trying to do something active, as we think that's non-viable for the majority of teams that are probably going to be watching this, and we're trying to keep something simpler-ish with as few resources as possible. We're dealing with a very small amount of materials. I have a second wheel around here somewhere, but I could only find one of these nice large green compliant wheels, so we're having to work around a lot of our material constraints as well. Are there any other questions out there in the chat? Give you another minute or so.
Yeah.
Our next Q&A will probably be
At
in
9 p.m.
9 p.m.
EST.
Another 6 hours or so. So check in by then. The hope is we're to have
All the game pieces done and prototyping. Not game pieces, sorry.
the field elements, and I hope to have at least a wooden prototype of the chute. We're gonna set the live stream back up to go back on the upper cam. If you have any more questions, just leave them in the chat. Thank you very much.
I'll be here for 5 more minutes and then we'll head back.